said, my name is Shannon, Stowell, and I'm the president of the Adventure Travel Trade Association, based in Seattle, Washington. So there was a research study done in the U.S. a few years back, a poll, and it asked people what their number one, number two, and beyond that, what their fears were, their greatest fears. The greatest fear of all was public speaking. The second was death, which means that if people are at a funeral, they would prefer to be the one in the box instead of the one giving the funeral. But I know that you're a kind audience, so I'm not afraid to speak today. So I've met many of you. It's been a great, great pleasure. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about ATTA, and then a little bit about why we're here, and then I will give you some information on the state of the industry research study that we just completed last year and are going to be running again this year. And I can give you more information on that later. I'm going to have to blast through a lot of information really quickly, so I'm going to go just at the top level. And if any of you need more depth on any of the subjects later, you can talk with ATTA, because they will have the data available to them. You can get that through Stoewl or Presidente. So this is my second year at the Adventure Sports Fair. I came last year, and that was my first trip to Brazil. I followed up the Adventure Sports Fair with a trip to Chapada Diamantina and had an incredible time. So I haven't seen the Amazon or the Pantanal, but I've seen Chapada Diamantina. A little bit about the ATTA. We are a global adventure travel association, and our aim from the beginning has been more of the marketing and the commercial side. Since we're global and we represent so many companies, we don't do advocacy like a lot of organizations do with their individual governments. Our whole goal is to grow the adventure travel industry sustainably. That's what we exist for. It's what it all boils down to. We do many things, but that's what it all comes down to. So the way we do this, we put together educational programs. A lot of times that's based on helping companies with marketing, PR, business development, connections, website building, things like that. So we do that through online seminars, through phone seminars. We have a small but growing library. We also do research, some of which you're going to see here in a few minutes. We do some research with the consumer, but a lot with the trade, more with the consumer in the future. We do a lot of marketing and PR. I don't know how many of you are on our email list, but we recently acquired the URL www.adventure.travel. .travel is now a top-level domain, recently released, and we are going to use the adventure.travel website as a way to promote adventure tour operators. So you can see the beta, the early version of that now. See that online. We also, due to our spot in the industry, we end up being the resource for a lot of press. Just in the last week, we have done interviews with National Geographic, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. Sometimes it's to get our reaction to a story. Many times it is to give them information on opportunities for tourists, for consumers around the world. So we end up being a resource, and we send a lot of media to ATTA members and also non-members, as long as they are the right fit for the media story. We do a lot of coaching on how to do publicity, public relations. We also are a connecting organization. So many of our members will call us and say, I'm trying to do something, whether it's get into an article or make a connection with a specific tour operator, et cetera, et cetera. We do a lot of connecting in the industry. Sometimes it's one-on-one, and then sometimes it is as a mass. So you've heard of the Adventure Travel World Summit, of which 3 representatives from ATTA and Quebec attended last year and 1 the year before. So they've actually seen this in action, where last year about 420 of the executives from adventure travel companies around the globe came to Seattle for a meeting. And so a lot of connections happen in this scenario. We're also now, just in the last few months, starting to step on the global stage. What I mean by that is working with associations around the world to share knowledge to compare challenges, to create opportunities. So ATTA and Bebeco are one of those 11 associations around the globe that we are currently in partnership with. And they range from Bhutan to Canada to Peru and all around the globe. We also have an advisory board that we tap into, and it's based on people who have expertise in the industry. We have futurists, we have the publisher of National Geographic Adventure, and then closer to home here, Stoewl is also on our advisory board as of about 2 months ago. The other thing that we do for our members is that we are always on the cutting edge of technology, which is sometimes a good place to be, and sometimes it's a place where pioneers are. And pioneers are usually the people, the joke in the US is the pioneers are the people who are laying face down in the mud with arrows in their back. But sometimes it's a good place to be because you have to know what is the latest in Google search technology. Because so much of the market, at least in North America, has gone online to find their adventure travel. So we focus on things like search engines, on new web marketing techniques. And so we stay tapped into experts all around to make sure that we know of the newest and latest so that we can present that to our members. So we were one of the first signers of the .travel domain, for example. So it's just now kind of coming out, but we were talking to our members about it 2 years ago, letting them know this is coming, be ready to register. If you want to get this URL, you're going to need to be ready. So that's the other sort of thing we do. So real quickly, I'm going to do a super quick definition of what we consider adventure travel. I remember last year it was a big point of discussion here. It's been a big point of discussion at our summits, and we've got a fairly quick boiled down definition here. So the old definition of adventure travel, and keep in mind that my bias here today will be primarily North American. Although we're a global organization, we reside in the US, probably 70% of our members are in the US, and much of the data that we gather is currently in the US. That will grow globally over time, which is part of the reason I'm here today, as we make connections. But keep in mind, this is a North American bias. So the old definition was very much on the extreme sports side. So an adventure traveler was somebody who went ice climbing in Nepal. And unless it was extreme, dangerous, and put your life at risk, then it wasn't adventure travel. But as we've done polls with consumers, we found that they believe that there are 3 parts to it. There's the environment, so you'll be out on the ocean, on a trail, in the mountains. There's the physical activity, hiking, biking, skiing, running, and then there's the cultural immersion, which has emerged in the last decade as a critical part of adventure travel. So right at the center of this, the core, where all those things come together, is nobody argues. That's the definition of adventure travel. If you are doing a backcountry trek in Brazil, staying with locals and doing some sort of rigorous activity, that's adventure travel. Nobody's going to argue with it. If you get out on the fringes anywhere, then it starts to get gray, and people do debate it. For a certain generation in the US, walking in Scotland is adventure travel. It's not a cruise, it's not laying on a beach. Somewhere out here, this is the current breakdown of ATTA members. So you can see that we are primarily driven by tour operators. These are the domestic US, and these are the international tour operators that are members. Then there's the tourism boards. This is kind of the miscellaneous and individuals category. And then it breaks down. There's actually quite a few. The old ATTA, before we took the organization over in 2004, was almost purely U.S. domestic tour operators, and within that, it was almost only river rafting. That's the old ATTA. The new ATTA is much more inclusive. The reason for this is that we believe that all these pieces of the industry are critical for a healthy industry. The gear companies, the media, the travel agents, they're all part of this. And if we ignore any one part, we're missing part of the body to make